What's the future of Quebec energy? I mean, energy, this is going to be one of the keys over this century, by the way, everywhere, right? You know, climate crisis, all this kind of stuff. Where are we going to get the energy? Now, here in Quebec, we are known for having Hydro-Quebec. And Hydro-Quebec recently signed a monster deal with the state of New York to provide them with electricity. Part of that goal to become the battery of the Northeast. On the line is the CEO of Hydro-Quebec, Sophie Brochu. Madame Brochu, welcome back to the show.
Elias, good morning. It's a pleasure for me to be with you again.
I've told you a million times now. I don't want to repeat myself, but I'll say this. You are my favorite Crown Corporation CEO, okay? So that let's get this out of the way. You're my favorite Crown Corporation CEO, but I'm going to start with the tough question, okay?
Okay.
Tough question.
Let's go.
How much are our hydro rates going up next year?
According to the law that has been passed a few years ago, it increases with inflation, and the increase will be 2.6% at beginning on April 1st, 2022.
Now, 2.6%, a lot of people are unhappy about that because that's a higher, of course, inflation is high now, but that's higher than in previous years. And some people say, you know what, we've got this jewel in Quebec called Hydro-Quebec. They're signing all of these deals with U.S. states. Why doesn't New York and Massachusetts, why don't we just make them pay for it to keep our rates low? What do you say to that?
Well, I say that the two markets are completely, I'm trying to find the English word, étanche. They don't connect, okay? The rates that we charge to the U.S. are set upon cost, and they fully carry the cost and more, obviously, because we make a profit over there. They carry their own cost, the cost of the lines we have to build to get to them, the cost of it's an all-in cost that is completely separated from the reality in Quebec. The reality in Quebec is that yes, we follow inflation. Historically, when you go back, over decades, it has on average followed the inflation. The annual inflation allows Hydro-Quebec to absorb the evolution of expenses over time, which are also impacted by inflation. Now, worthy to note, Elias, had we done September over September 2021 over September 2020, it would have been an increase of 5 point something. The inflation actually year over year would have been 5. There is a smooth out methodology so that it allows us to smooth over time the inflation calculation. So the inflation is 2.6. The actual real inflation is higher than that, so it's 2.6. Now, I understand fully the people who say, well, we have this jewel and we need to keep it competitive. We need to be mindful that the residential rate, even though we have this increase, is still the lowest in North America. It is about, if you take for a 5.5 apartment flat, the increase would represent less than $2 a month. Mm-hmm. For a medium house, it would be less than $5 a month. So we need to understand the relativity of all that. We need to understand that the cost that we incur to replace the lines, to ensure maintenance, to pay our workers, to pay for all the materials that come into construction is also inflated. And it is important, though, for us to be mindful of the people for who $2 a month is a huge amount of money. And this is why I would like to say to your listeners, Elias, if you have a problem with paying your electricity bill, please call us. We'll make an arrangement. The idea is not to cut power to any people who are in difficulty to come in and talk to us. We'll make an arrangement. But the electricity is supply incurs lots of costs. And those costs need to be reflected in the tariffs that we pay.
We're with the CEO of Hydro-Quebec, Sophie Brochu. Madame Brochu, let's talk about that New York deal. How big of a deal is this, and what does it say about the future Hydro-Quebec?
Well, the deal, I'll give you some numbers. Okay, we're going to talk terawatt hours, which is the consumption of overall energy. Let's say that in Quebec, I'm making round numbers here, the overall production is about 200 terawatt hours, okay, all things included. The deal that we made with New York that is still in the making is about 10.4 terawatt hours. Mm-hmm. So this deal represents about 5% of the overall Quebec compound. So it's significant. It's the largest exportation contract per se. It's important to say that we are already selling power to New York and the U.S. Northeast on what we call the spot market, which is like a bourse, like a
stock exchange.
A stock exchange. Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah. Thank you for that. And we bid hourly, weekly, daily, and yearly into that market. So what we're doing right now is making an agreement with a specific buyer who is paying the cost, not only for the line, but pays a premium because Quebec's electricity is clean and they need to decarbonize because New York is heavily relying upon electricity produced with fossil fuels.
Now, everyone is going to be switching to electric cars. In fact, we got the people at GM Canada joining us after the 10:30 news here, Madame Brochu. A question I have is, let's say by 2025, the market's going to change. All the new cars are almost all going to be electric by that point, in my estimation. Does Hydro-Quebec, do we have enough electricity if we electrify transportation in a massive way?
Absolutely, Elias. What we will need to do is to make sure that when we come home that we don't charge all of those batteries at the same time. The issue is not about do we have the electricity, do we have the energy? We do have it. But the system that brings this electricity to our respective houses cannot absorb everybody charging at the same time. So as the fleet of electric cars will come in, Hydro-Quebec will be savvy and working with all its customers to say, hey, you know what, charging a car overnight will be a better thing than to charge it at 6 o'clock when you start your dishwasher, when you start cooking, when you start the dryer and everything. So the whole challenge that we will collectively have, Elias, with the increased usage of energy is to use it very smartly and to make sure that, if you come in at 6 o'clock at night and you won't take your car until 7 the next morning, hey, let's start the charging of that at 10 o'clock at night, and we'll have all the appliances to allow you to do just that.
Does that mean variable pricing? It's a matter of when, not if, variable pricing for electricity in this province?
There might be variable pricing, but again, I think there are many ways to make sure that we come to a similar result. Some people actually request variable pricing because it allows us to give them rebate. This is an optional program that we have. Yeah. But for charging cars, there will be more and more gizmos, and actually you will be able to schedule it in your intelligent phone. Yes. In the near future. So as we move into this new dimension and new reality, we'll need to be more savvy. We'll need to be more technologically bright. And I think that all of us, all together, will make it a success. But the energy is there. That's not an issue.
Where's the new electricity going to be coming from in the future for Hydro-Quebec? Is it hydro? Is it wind? Is it solar? Where's it coming from?
Well, the first chunk, Elias, will be energy efficiency. And let me give you, again, an example that is striking. Between 2002 and 2020, all the electricity saving we made together because we used our electricity differently, because we have better isolations of our buildings, equivalates to, boom, 10.4 terawatt hours. Incredible. This is exactly the amount of the contract we sold to New York. So there is lots of room left into this big well of capacity. So the idea is that as more people will want to move from fossil fuels to electricity, the challenge that we have is to make room for them without increasing the cost. So when we are more efficient, this is what we allow. And this is where Hydro-Quebec will be providing lots of incentives for everybody to consume better. Once we have the right behavior and that we take care of the electricity we consume. And we have to do that because at the end, the electricity is really relatively cheap in Quebec. So people don't make the best use all the time of it. So energy efficiency. Then there are two other ways to bring lots of energy. Wind power. We're about to launch a new RFP for wind power. There is room for that. And the wind power is very complementary to our big reservoir because when it winds, this is super. When there is no wind, like this summer was not that windy, believe it or not, and we had less wind contribution. Well, we were lucky and happy to have our reservoir. So the tandem of hydroelectricity with wind is formidable. And the third one is very important is our existing facilities, producing facilities, our big dams and reservoirs, our turbines are getting old, and we are modernizing them. And each time we modernize the equipment, it increases the energy and capacity that we can access. So lots of room in front of us to do better on energy efficiency, more wind, modernization of our equipment, and altogether we will be successful into this transition here in Quebec. And we have everything, Elias, that we need to inspire the world on how to get there.
Sophie Brochu is the CEO of Hydro-Quebec. You should get on Twitter so you can tweet at Elon Musk. I would like watching that, by the way. Get on that Twitter, Sophie Brochu.
You know what? I am so in the juice. I have 15 minutes for you. I say hi to Mitch, and that's it. This is where I am. Okay, right. Sorry about that.
That's okay. That's Madame Brochu. Thank you so much for coming on the show. That's Sophie Brochu, the CEO of Hydro-Quebec. You won't find her on Twitter anytime soon, but that's probably a good thing.